Hi Year 6, it's Miss Fry again, and welcome back to your third English lesson. Now, we're going to wake our brains up with some riddles, so get your minds thinking. Number 1, what has a neck but no head? And number 2, what happens once in a lifetime, twice in a moment, but never in 100 years? Have a think. Can you work out the answers? Do you think you've worked them out? Let's see. So what has a neck but no head? Yep, that's right. It was a bottle. And what happens once in a lifetime, twice in a moment, but never in 100 years? I found this one a bit tricky. And the answer is the letter M. Right, now our brains are woken up. It's time to move on with our learning. Today you'll need a pencil or a pen, some paper to write on and lined if possible, please. And you'll also need your facts and your relative clause examples from yesterday's lesson. So if you pause the video just for a moment and go and get those things, please, then we'll make a start. Right, are we ready? Now, first of all, today, we're just going to do a little recap from last session, and we're going to look at the skill of relative clauses. And the reason that we need to recap upon this skill is because I'd like you to use relative clauses in your writing today, please. So, a relative clause is a type of subordinate clause, and it's used to modify or describe a noun. Now, let's look at an example from yesterday's lesson. Miss Fry taught the Year 6 children who were very focused on their learning. Now, I've got the main clause there already, which makes sense on its own. Miss Fry taught the Year 6 children. And then I've added the relative clause, who were very focused on their learning. Now, I've done that by using who as my relative pronoun to modify and describe the noun children. Let's have a look at our examples about the Amazon. So, firstly, I have the Amazon River, which stretches an incredible 4,000 miles, is the second longest in the world. Now, you can see in purple here, this is my relative clause, and it's actually an embedded clause as well because it's embedded in the middle of the main clause, in the middle of the original sentence. And I've used the relative pronoun which to modify or describe the noun river. Let's have a look at the second example. The emergent layer of the rainforest is formed by the tallest trees that are home to a vast array of exotic birds. Now, I've got my main clause here in black, and then I've used my relative pronoun that to modify the noun trees and added my relative clause. And my final example is exactly the same structure as the first, in that it's a relative clause using the relative pronoun which, and it's also an embedded clause. So we have rainforests, which are usually located close to the equator, are one of the Earth's major habitats. Right, hopefully we're all good with relative clauses. You've got a good understanding of them, and now you're going to be able to apply that into your writing. Now we're going to look at two more skills. Firstly, we'll look at fronted adverbials. Now, these will not be new to you. You will have been using these in Year 4 and Year 5 already, but they're still really important in our writing in Year 6, not to overuse them. We do have to be careful of that, but they are really important to give that mature feel and cohesion to our writing. So, adverbials. An adverbial is a word, phrase, or clause that is used, like an adverb, to modify, change, a verb or a clause. Adverbs can be used as adverbials, but many other types of words, phrases, and clauses can also be used in this way, including prepositional phrases and subordinate clauses. Now, a fronted adverbial is basically just an adverbial used at the beginning of a sentence, okay, and that's why it's called fronted. It's just at the front. Now, fronted adverbials can be used to describe different things. Firstly, they can be used to describe the time something happens. Secondly, the frequency or how often something happens, the place something happens, and the manner that something happens. Let's have a look at an example for each of these. Millions of years ago, most of the Earth was covered with rainforests. My fronted adverbial here is millions of years ago because that tells me the time that something happens. Every year, approximately 260 inches of rain falls within rainforests. And my fronted adverbial here is here. Every year which describes the frequency of this rainfall. Beneath the canopy layer, the understory is home to creatures who have adapted to dark, cool habitats. Beneath the canopy layer is my fronted adverbial, and it describes the place that this happens. And then finally, with ear-splitting force, the howler monkey screeches upon catching sight of an emerald tree boa. This is the manner, this fronted adverbial here, because it tells me how the howler monkey screeched. You'll notice that each of the fronted adverbials are also followed by a comma to mark that clause. Now it's your turn. Can you add fronted adverbial clauses to these sentences using the facts that you've collected? So the first sentence is, the emergent layer of trees tower as much as 200 feet above the forest floor. And the second is, adult spider monkeys climb the treetops in search of food. So if you pause the video for just a moment so you can read these sentences and you're able to use them, and can you rewrite them please with your fronted adverbial clauses? Okay, pause the video now and have a go. Have you managed to add your fronted adverbial clauses? Brilliant, well done. I'm going to share my examples with you. Now, it's very unlikely that yours are going to be exactly the same as mine, but that's okay, that doesn't matter as long as you've used fronted adverbial clauses. So, my first one was, above the umbrella of the canopy, the emergent layer of trees tower as much as 200 feet above the forest floor. Now, I've used the fronted adverbial above the umbrella of the canopy, so I've described the place. And my other one, protectively carrying their young, adult spider monkeys climb the treetops in search of food. So I've used my fronted adverbial here, protectively carrying their young, to describe manner, how they were carrying their young. So, fronted adverbials we also need to make sure we're using in our writing today. Now let's look at one more skill. We're going to look at fronted subordinate clauses. So a subordinating conjunction connects a main clause and a subordinate clause. A subordinate clause is dependent on the main clause because it doesn't make sense on its own. And when main clauses and subordinate clauses are used together to form a sentence, it's called a complex sentence. And here's a couple of examples of complex sentences here. Plants and leaves begin to decay quickly, since hardly any sun reaches the forest floor. Now here in this first sentence, we've got our main clause in black. Plants and leaves begin to decay quickly. That makes sense on its own. Now we've got our subordinate clause here, since hardly any sun reaches the forest floor. That's subordinate, it doesn't make sense on its own, it's dependent upon this main clause. And this subordinate clause starts with the subordinating conjunction since. Now if I want to make that a fronted subordinate clause, I simply, just like fronted adverbials, move this subordinate clause to the front. So it becomes this second example. Since hardly any sun reaches the forest floor, plants and leaves begin to decay quickly. These are some common subordinating conjunctions that are used in complex sentences. You might want to pause the video just for a moment, just so you can make a note of some of these subordinating conjunctions, and then you can use them in your writing as well. Now we're going to have a look at some more examples and using some of these subordinating conjunctions. So, some fronted subordinate clauses. Before humans started destroying them, rainforests covered a considerable amount of the Earth's land area. Now here I've used the subordinating conjunction before to add in my subordinate clause at the front, my fronted subordinate clause. So before humans started destroying them, rainforests covered a considerable amount of the Earth's land area. Okay, now I've got here a main clause, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest. Do you think you could add a fronted subordinate clause beginning with a subordinating conjunction to this? Pause the video and have a go. Well done, Year 6. Hopefully you've referred back to your facts to help you think of your fronted subordinate clause. I'm going to share my example with you, which may be similar or slightly different to yours, which is fine. So I had, because of the warm climate and significant rainfall, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest. I've got my subordinating conjunction because here, and then my fronted subordinate clause, which goes in front of my main clause. Now, it could be the other way round. Plants and trees flourish in the rainforest because of the warm climate and significant rainfall. However, I wanted to use a fronted subordinate clause as that's a skill we're practicing. Also, it emphasises that part of the sentence more, the fact that it's a warm climate and there's significant rainfall. Okay, let's look back to our learning journey to see where we're going next. We looked at this learning journey yesterday, and the outcome of this whole journey, this whole series of lessons, is going to be a non-chronological report about the Amazon rainforest. So it's going to be a non-fiction and a formal text. And the purpose of this is to inform. Now, let's have a look at our steps in our journey. So first of all, virtual school trip to the Amazon rainforest and collect facts. Yep, one we can tick off, we've done that one. So the next step was practice using relative clauses, fronted adverbials and fronted subordinate clauses. Well, you practiced using relative clauses yesterday and today, and we've just looked at fronted adverbials and fronted subordinate clauses. That one's ticked off too. So the next step in our journey is to write an introduction to the report. Now, I'm going to share with you some modelled writing that I've already done. I've already made a start on it for my introduction to the report. And then I'm going to do some along with you so I can explain my thought processes in doing so. Here is what I've written so far for my introduction to my non-chronological report. And I'm going to explain to you why I've used certain features and what my thoughts were when I was doing so. So I've started with the Amazon, which is located in South America, is the largest of all the world's rainforests. So straight away, I've got a sentence which is going to grab the reader's attention and tell them a fact straight away about it being large. I've used a relative clause here in my first sentence, which is also an embedded clause using the relative pronoun which to modify and describe the Amazon. So the Amazon, which is located in South America, is the largest of all the world's rainforest. And I've added that extra relative clause there to tell the reader where it is. Then moved on to my next sentence, which continues with the size to describe that to my reader and compare it to something that they might already know the size of. So I've got, it covers a vast area of 2.5 million square miles. And I've added a dash here to do that comparison. This is almost the size of the whole of the United States of America. I've then moved on with Amazonia, which this tropical paradise is often referred to as, has the mighty Amazon River running through it. Again, I've used a relative clause, which is also an embedded clause in this sentence. I've done this twice now in this introduction. I think it works at the moment, but this may be something that I want to read back and check just to make sure I'm not being too repetitive with my sentence structure. Within my relative clause, I've replaced the noun Amazon with, or rainforest, with tropical paradise. So I've done a bit of a replacement of noun or replacement of proper noun. And this is again to avoid repetition and to avoid keep saying Amazon, Amazon, rainforest, rainforest. It's also a bit of factual information as well because it is a tropical rainforest. So Amazonia, which this tropical paradise is often referred to as, has the mighty Amazon River running through it. I've then continued cohesively to talk about the Amazon. Impressively, it stretches an incredible 4,000 miles, making it the second longest river in the world. Temperatures in the Amazon range from 86 to 95 degrees. This is very hot and humid, but the perfect climate for its wildlife. I'll try to use a bit of more of a range of sentence structures here. I've used quite a lot of complex sentences here. So I've used this compound sentence at the end saying to expand on this first sentence. So temperatures in the Amazon range from 85 to 95 degrees, full stop. And then I've explained that with this is very hot and humid, but my coordinating conjunction, the perfect climate for its wildlife. Right, now we're going to have a look and write some together. So I've just written about the temperature and the humidity and the climate, and I've just said that it's perfect for wildlife. And now I also want to talk about plants and trees as well in there, and continue with that same theme in these sentences to make my writing cohesive. So I'm going to start here with a fronted subordinate clause, and I'm going to use the subordinating conjunction because. I'm going to say, because of the warm environment, because of the warm environment, comma. Oh, actually, I'm going to say because of the warm environment and significant rainfall. So I don't need the comma yet. And significant rainfall, comma. Plants and trees flourish in the rainforest. Plants and trees flourish in the rainforest, creating one of the Earth's major habitats. Habitats. I've taken that from my facts that we found in that first lesson from our virtual field trip. So because of the warm environment and significant rainfall, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest, creating one of the Earth's major habitats. In fact, I've got a little bit more detail that I'd like to add in about the amount of rainfall, and I'm going to do that within brackets. So because of the warm environment and significant rainfall, and I'm going to tell my reader what that rainfall is. So average of 260 inches per year. There we go. So now I've got some additional information using my brackets. Because of the warm environment and significant rainfall, an average of 260 inches per year, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest, creating one of the Earth's major habitats. And because I've said about habitats, I'm going to continue talking about that wildlife. So, in fact, rainforests are home to half of the world's, and I've got my apostrophe in there because they belong to the world, species of plants and animals, comma, now I'm adding a relative clause, which are not found anywhere, not going to put my O in, which are not found anywhere else in the world. So I've just added, because of the warm environment and significant rainfall, an average of 260 inches per year, plants and trees flourish in the rainforest, creating one of the Earth's major habitats. In fact, rainforests are home to half the world's species of plants and animals which are not found anywhere else in the world. The reason I've also chosen to finish my introduction here is because I'm going to be writing some paragraphs looking at my learning journey about species. I'm going to be writing about an insect and another animal. So I thought, well, actually, if I finish my introduction with almost introducing the next paragraph, so I've got cohesion between my paragraphs, then my following paragraph will be all about an insect that aren't found anywhere else in the world. Now it's your turn. So you're going to have a go at writing your introduction to your non-chronological report about the rainforest. And please remember to use the skills that we've been practicing in this lesson. So using your relative clauses, your fronted adverbials, and your fronted subordinate clauses as well. What you can also do is look back to the key facts that you collected last lesson so that you're able to write this introduction factually using these key bullet points that you've already written. And also today you've practiced some of your own examples of relative clauses, fronted subordinate clauses, and fronted adverbials. So you may actually be able to lift those directly and use them in your introduction, or just adapt them slightly so that it's cohesive and fits together. So if you pause the video and write your introductions, and then we'll recap and review just at the end. Best of luck, Year 6. Off you go. Well done, Year 6. Now let's have a little review. What I'd like you to do is do a little bit of proofreading and editing of your work. So you're going to have your paragraphs in front of you and read it through very carefully, considering the following things. Does it make sense? Okay, you can always grab a polishing pen or a different colour pen or a pencil and edit and cross out and rewrite above if it doesn't, or you need to add in some extra information or words. Is it cohesive? Does it flow well? Do your sentences build upon one another? Have you included the skills that we've practiced? Relative clauses, fronted adverbials, and fronted subordinate clauses? Are there any spelling or punctuation errors that you need to correct? And will it lead on well to a paragraph about an insect? So I'd like you to read your paragraphs, check it for those 5 key things, and then make some additions, edit it and improve it so that you've met all of your success criteria. Okay, pause the video for a moment and have a go at that. Off you go. Well done, Year 6, and thank you for all of your hard work today. I hope you're really proud of the writing that you've produced and that you've managed to edit and improve so that you've used all the skills and the success criteria that we talked about. And in the next session for English, we're going to be looking at insects that live in the Amazon rainforest, and we're going to be preparing and planning so that we can write about one as well. I'll look forward to seeing you then. Take care. Bye.